Hi, I'm Victoria, and I know Katie through our freshman dorm in college, and I am going to talk about wine today.
Amazing.
I
So
have a wine prop here, but it is actually empty because I drink it all.
incredible. So tell me a little bit about your journey with wine and your current project that you're working on.
Sure. So it all started when I was nursing a bit of a broken heart. and yeah, so I headed into 2020 needing a distraction slash lots of distractions. So I kind of adopted this like yes woman attitude and was just saying yes to anything that was proposed to me, and also had very supportive friends that helped me in that endeavor to find distractions. And so yeah, my friend Rochelle suggested that we take this sommelier certification course in downtown San Francisco. And I think at any other time in my life, I would have been like, that's crazy. But because I was saying yes to everything, I agreed to it. And it was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. We had to like study a whole textbook, and yeah, and so we had to study on our own for like they probably like suggest like 3 months, but we just crammed in a month. And then it was like a 2-day intensive at the Sir Francis Drake Hotel downtown, and it was like 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Saturday, Sunday. But it was a really cool experience. I learned a lot. I got to try like 40 wines in one weekend and then take a 70-question multiple choice test at the end of that. So my first time ever using a spittoon. This is the only way I was going to be able to take that test. But it was honestly the best time, and I realized like wine is such an interesting thing. I mean, the history of wine is like part of the history of the world,
Right.
and there's the history of like religion and different parts of like Europe and Latin America and Australia, New Zealand, and the US that fit into that. So I learned a lot, and I got to meet some master sommeliers who were super inspiring. There's only like 260 in the whole world. So yeah, I got to meet like 8 of them that weekend, which was super cool. And
Why
they
are they
let us.
better? Like what more do they know about wine than you do?
Okay, so yes, there are several levels. I am just a lowly level 1 som.
Like some kind of martial art. Like you get your black
Yeah,
belt in wine tasting.
yeah. Whatever the lowest level belt is, that's me. Um, but yeah, and then there's level 2, and then advanced, and then master. And master is something that can take like a decade to study for. And all those documentaries on like Netflix and Hulu about people who can like try almost any glass of wine and tell you the grape, the region, the vintage, like all of that. Those are masters.
Is that true though? Because like to me, as someone who has not studied wine, like all reds, they have differences, but I don't think it's possible for anyone. Is it true that you could blindfold someone and they could really tell you what's like the cheap wine versus the expensive one?
So it depends. I mean, I think just because you're a master, you're not going to be able to like pick any glass of wine and like tell
Right.
you exactly what it is and how much it costs. Um, I would also say wine prices are like very dependent on a lot of things, and there's a lot of very overpriced wine out there, and a lot of very underpriced wine as well. So like a lot of the masters train with like really well-known labels, a huge variety, and it's still like very, very impressive. But there are like some classic wines that they like definitely should know, and they're not necessarily going to know like you know La Crema from Costco versus like, Vogel or Menage a
But
Trois.
it is something more of a science where there are like discrete qualities and quantities
Yeah.
that can be.
Yeah, so what we learned in our sommelier certification course, and it's the exact same process that Master Soms uses, the deductive tasting method. So you'll start by like smelling it, and certain wines have like very distinct smells, so you can sort of narrow it down from there and say like, okay, because this smells like this flower or this fruit, it's probably going to narrow it down to like these kinds of wines. And then like looking at rim variation, you can tell like age, or at the legs, which denotes like alcohol content, so you can further narrow it down from there. And then you taste it, and based on the like flavor profile can narrow it down further. And like
So
a fruitier wine.
What is the difference? I'm just going to ask you a bunch of rapid fire questions now.
Yeah.
So what is the difference between a Cabernet and a Pinot Noir?
Well, Cabernet Sauvignon is one type of grape, and Pinot Noir is another type of grape. So okay. They're both red wine grapes. Pinot Noir is like typically gonna produce like lighter, less bold wines, and they're also colder climate grapes. So you'll find them in like the colder parts of Napa. They grow in Burgundy in France, which is a little colder. A little bit of it's grown in Germany. It's like one of the only red grapes that they grow because it's cold there. Right. Whereas Cabernet Sauvignon is going to be bolder and probably have like higher tannins, but it'll grow in like more rocky soil and warmer climates.
Okay, that's cool. And so what are some of your favorite wine facts?
Ooh, some of my favorite wine facts.
Or I guess, so, well, first of all, do you prefer red or white?
Oh, I was a red wine snob up until this journey. But I think it's because I had only ever tasted very cheap white wine. So I'd say, but if I'm going cheap, I prefer red, but really any wine that's made well, I'm gonna be into. So I'm a huge fan of Sauvignon Blanc now.
Okay.
This is a Sauv Blanc from New Zealand. Quite good.
So what is, for Sauv Blanc, how would you make it better versus poorly? Like, what's the difference? What makes it well made? What in the process differentiates it?
Well, that's the thing about wine, is there's just so many factors that can affect it, and like one thing in the whole production process can have a huge impact on the wine. So terroir refers to like kind of the mix of sunlight and temperature and like degree of slope of the vine on the hill, just like the entire atmosphere in which a grape grows. So that has a huge effect on the wine, but also just like individual winemaker preferences. So like temperature at which it ferments, and like what kind of container it's being like aged in, barrels versus stainless steel tanks. So yeah, there's just kind of like a ton of different things that can affect it. But generally, like the wines that are made on a smaller scale, a little more care goes into making them, and therefore it's not as mass produced, but it's usually a higher quality wine. Whereas the wines that are made to be sold, by the thousands of cases are
right.
Not going to be as great, but
my $5 Trader Joe's wine is pretty good.
Oh, nice. What are you drinking?
Is,
Oh, I actually had a Lambrusco the other day. That was pretty good. I'm a fan.
So for people who don't know, it's a sparkling red, which I didn't know existed until like 2 years ago when I tried it for the first time, but it's on the sweeter end because I am still a basic bitch and I do not have the sommelier level of expertise.
Hey, sweet wine is good too. I like all wines on the spectrum.
Well, I think we can end off with that note of diversity and love. So thank you for trying this wine. This is awesome.
I am glad I could join. Thanks for having me.
Of course.